defined as?
Well, dyspraxia is also known as developmental coordination disorder. So it's basically a inability to reach certain physical milestones. So such as walking, so gross motor skills like walking, crawling, but then fine motor skills as well, such as fastening buttons or tying shoelaces. And it's also manifests in someone having difficulty with organisation of their thoughts, and also of physical organisation as well in their daily lives.
So Charlotte's just basically described me in a nutshell. And what would you say are the signs to look for if somebody's thinking that they or a loved one could be dyspraxic?
Well, interestingly, it's not just a physical disability. It's also it can be displayed in someone's social interactions. So a lot of dyspraxic people tend to have difficulty socialising, making strong friendships. Often can be quite alone. So I think in children, if a child tends to be on their own and struggle to make connections with other children, that's a good sign. But also difficulty with more kind of like spatial tasks, so or gross motor things, so like running. On sports day you might see that someone's got a funny gait when they run, so you might think that they're dyspraxic. Other difficulties can be difficulties with numeracy. So children and adults who have always struggled with maths, struggle to grasp it, struggle to memorise mathematics, that can be a typical sign as well.
And unlike dyslexia where you can have a spiked profile, dyspraxia, you don't have the same kind of benefits of dyspraxia.
No.
Are there any coping strategies though that people can use if they think they're dyspraxic?
I mean, there's lots of information on the Dyspraxia Foundation website for this. There's lots of forums as well for dyspraxic people to communicate with each other and just share their experiences of having that disability. In terms of coping strategies though, I mean, a lot of dyspraxics do try to avoid certain activities, and I would just say do what you want to do, do what you enjoy, don't avoid anything like that. But I think in the workplace can be quite difficult with organisation especially. And dyspraxic people often struggle to remember tasks that involve sequences or steps. So I would just say a lot of strategies, the best strategies can often be just dictating steps into a voice recorder or writing them down. Anything that just helps you memorise tasks and eventually making those tasks automatic.
And how would you say dyspraxia manifests in me?
Well, you're very disorganised.
Yeah. I know it's true.
In some ways, because I've seen your office.
Charlotte's going to help me organise my office, because I literally have just moved house, as you know, and I've got boxes of stuff, and in my brain I cannot compute how to organise it. Like, it literally causes me so much stress and brain space to be able to organise. Like, it just, the thought, just like, I started to unpack and I was like, I don't know where I'm unpacking to, because I don't know, other than just shoving everything in boxes. I just, so
in you, I'd say it's mainly organisation of all your possessions. But I think something I mentioned actually, one of the main traits of dyspraxia is a lack of sense of direction and memory for directions as well. So I think you get left and right mixed up a lot, don't you? And memorising where you've been or how to get to the same place, even if it's somewhere you go regularly. And also with driving can be quite difficult, and parking. So dyspraxic people can often, like you, can struggle with spatial awareness and think that they're closer to something than they are, and vice versa. So can overcompensate for that.
Like, I've got to a point where I don't drive anymore because it just stresses me out so much. Not knowing how close something is to you, or like, it can be quite dangerous because you think something's close on that side, so you swerve into that side, and then actually you're kind of not aware. So that's there's certain things that really stress out my brain.
Yeah.
And also, is it like a clumsiness as well?
Yeah, so children who trip a lot, well, adults as well, and also become distracted easily. So they might see something that interests them but not think about where they're walking, so will trip or fall or walk into something. That is a very typical sign of dyspraxia, yeah.
Or getting lost if you've ever been to the toilet when you're in a restaurant. I get lost all the time just trying to get out of those stupid toilets.
Yeah.
Just... And I was saying to Charlotte earlier, because I was remembering when I got the diagnosis, it was for dyslexia and dyspraxia, and I was doing my postgrad, and the assessment was in this like glass room, and I went out to get to the toilet, and it was like the worst thing trying to get back in, and the assessor was just seriously watching me, and I just could not find my way back into this stupid room. And also I was late because I couldn't find the venue where it was at. So then I ended up stopping the car in the middle of the road and freaking out because I couldn't find it. I was late because I was disorganised, couldn't find the directions. Then I got lost going to the toilet. And then, there were just like loads of things. When I look back at the time, it was really stressful. But now I can kind of laugh about it because I realise that a lot of them are traits.
Yeah.
And like with me, I knock things over a lot. Is that another...
Yeah. So again, that's something sometimes to do with you being focused on what you're talking about, being very enthused about what you're talking about, and not really thinking about anything else that's within your reach, or, you know, when you're moving your hands around and gesticulating. It's just the last thing you're thinking about when you're talking. Yeah. Because you're more interested in about what you're talking about. It's basically a difficulty with multitasking.
Yeah.
It's really, really difficult to multitask when you're dyspraxic. Yeah, because you become hyper-focused on one thing, rather than semi-focused on lots of things.
Yeah. And how does it differ from, so they sound similar, dyslexia and dyspraxia, how do they differ?
So dyslexia is typically a language learning difficulty, and dyspraxia is typically a physical coordination difficulty, and also organisation of thoughts difficulty.
And that's dyspraxia, the organisation of
thoughts. Yeah.
It's interesting, reminding me of some of the things where I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so dyspraxic. Everything. But anyway, where can people find out more about your assessments and your coaching as well?
We've got a website at clbdyslexiasupport.co.uk. I'm in the process of rebranding that, but that is currently what my website is called. So any information you'd like on there and about assessments and tuition, just head to there.
And I'll put a link below as well to Charlotte's latest website. So I'd love to know whether you've been diagnosed with dyspraxia, or whether you think you could be dyspraxic, or maybe you know someone who is. And also, if you've got any questions, do comment below and I'll fire them over at Charlotte too. I know finding out that I was dyspraxic has been very, very useful, because it actually makes it, for me, it makes me laugh at some of my certain tendencies, rather than just seeing them as like stressful, negative things. I do have a laugh at myself now, because I just kind of think, oh, that's the dyspraxia. And it's not an excuse, but it does help you to understand yourself and why you can't do certain things in a certain way, rather than just kind of feeling annoyed at yourself, because it can get, I think when you've got somebody like, if over the years people tell you, oh, you're really bad at that, you're really bad at that, you just think it's you. But actually knowing that there's like a diagnosis kind of helps you to like kind of think, well, that's just the dyspraxia. And we're all born with different traits, different skills and different weaknesses. So I definitely recommend, if you think you are, to get that assessment and diagnosis, and then hopefully you can get some support too. So that's all from us today. So do comment below and I'll see you soon. We've also got another vlog that I did with Charlotte on dyslexia, so I'll also put the link to that vlog below if you want to find out more about dyslexia. So see you later.